hi. And I was just like, Tiff, because she always says it. Hi, Tiff.
Hi, Cindy.
How you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and you're smiling like this. Guys, we're trying to muster up some energy because it's been a long day. We're taping way later than we normally. we're taping we're taping way later than we normally do. So we kind of feeling like walk, walk, walk. So let's get the energy going, Tiff. Let's get the energy going. All right, what we talking about today? Black History Month. Black History Month. And she got her black background. Her background.
Yes.
Walk, walk, walk. All right. Black History Month.
Wait.
So, I know, but don't bump. So why Guan, Tiffany? Black History Month. What's going on with it? We said we were going to talk first about just maybe a small, very small amount of where did Black History Month come from, right? So Black History Month, from what I understand, what I remember, is that it was 1915, way back. I thought it was later, Tiff. Actually, I was very surprised that it was so early on because 1915, it still was before women even had the right to vote. So I was like, wow, it was pretty early. It came out, several decades after the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery. And it was Carter G. Woodson and Jesse Moreland, right? Moreland. Yep. The Association of Negro Life and History is ANLH. They wanted to highlight, and this is something that I really didn't think about, I guess, until I was reading up on it just to refresh this time on it, really not being about Black history, but Black achievement. So not necessarily about, well, they were slaves and they was this and they was that. That's American history. Black history is really just like the achievements. That's why you see Black History Month. They'll be like, who was the first this and who did this and who did that. So it's more really to highlight achievements. What are you going to say about that?
Well, that's what you pretty much said it all, because I was just going to say that, it started in 1915, right after, well, not right after the 13th Amendment, but shortly after the 13th Amendment was passed. And it originally started out as Negro. Remember, we weren't called Black back then. Right. We were called all sorts of other names, but it started out as Negro History Week. And then it evolved over time to Black History Month. And the month actually was celebrated, I believe, beginning in 1976. Yeah, that's when we started having the actual month. So right a year, I was a year old when that happened. So that's when we began celebrating the month. And each president after, who was it, Carter?
Ford. It was Ford. 76 was Ford, yeah.
So Ford was president when I was born.
Gerald Ford.
Right?
Yeah, Gerald Ford.
Okay, so it started in every president after him had designated that month, of course, to be Black History Month, and where it's just now the norm, it's considered Black History Month.
Yeah. The only difference now with the norm is we don't really do anything or understand what it's really about. That's the part that was, a little disturbing. I mean, back in my federal government days, we really did highlight Black History Month, and one of the other things I was remembering was that there's always a theme of some kind. So they give you a theme for the month and you celebrate it. But other than it just being, okay, it's Black, you might see it on like YouTube has some videos out on it, different TV, probably BET will you notice how BET will highlight every day, they'll say this person did this or that person did that. So that's what I'm saying. It really is supposed to be tied to achievement and not necessarily all that we've been through. It's not really necessarily about that.
Right. And that's, I mean, that you would think that that's what it's hopefully about, but it's also about the history of what we've been through as a people. Right. And it's not only celebrated in the United States, it's celebrated in Canada, it's celebrated in the UK. So it's celebrated in other places, talking about the achievement, but we would be remiss if we did not say that we need to have some parts of the history discussed during this month, because when you look at history books, I'm sure you've taught history. When you look at the history books, and the reason that it's so important to have these types of months of Hispanic heritage, Jewish heritage, Black history is because women's history, and it's because a lot of times we're not profoundly present in the history
At
book.
all.
So
At
that's
all. At all.
well, we're there here and there. We're speckled in
We
there,
came
but
over on the boat. We came over on the boat, and then that was it.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's not like it was one of those things where it's consistently learned about. So a lot of the achievements, like you said, are learned during Black History Month, and there's a lot of little known facts that you learn during the month. But
Yeah.
it's definitely still important. And one of the things that I wanted to ask is whether or not, I mean, there's a big debate about whether or not we still need months like that, like Women's History, Black History. I mean, what do you think? Do you think we still need a month?
Gosh, I mean, it was like Stacey Dash. Hate to give her name a shout out, but when she was doing her little, I know, right? So ridiculous. She was doing her little, but I like to assign stupidity to who it belongs to. In this case, it's absolute stupidity. When she was doing her little tour, her little popping tour, trying to prove to Mr. President that I be your girl. She was saying we didn't need Black History Month anymore. And I'm saying the reason why, like you said, the reason why we have that is because we're not acknowledged. It's because the stories have been rewritten, and which, I mean, when you read about a lot of the inventions, you didn't even realize Black people actually did it. But because we had no legal recourse here, when we made our patents, we oftentimes worked for them. And so they stole our idea, or just maybe they were able to go to the patent office, or because you couldn't sue. I think Black people couldn't even probably sue to get anything done. So you had to work under somebody, and that person would basically steal your invention. So yes, until those things are in the history books, until we don't have to keep going, Las vidas de los negros importan, Black Lives Matter, until we don't have to do that, then yes, it's the same as women. Women are going to say, until we don't have to say Kamala Harris is the first Black this, until we don't have to say that anymore, or the first female, until we don't have to say Sotomayor is the first Supreme Court justice of Latin American descent, until we are, until we can't say Asian, until our president doesn't say the China virus, and blame it on a nationality instead of saying viruses happen. They've been happening forever.
Well, we're not going to discuss that.
No, but I'm saying, like, when you think about what he's no longer.
Okay.
Well, we have presidents that just an hour ago was our president saying stuff like that, and this is 2021, and you still have to go, oh wow, you shouldn't say that. Oh wow, we shouldn't see TV. People on TV screaming, go back to your country, until you don't see that anymore. Yes, we're going to need history months. We have all of them. It's not, I think people probably don't realize we have them all, but we have not all, but we have a lot. We have Native American, we have Native American, Asian Pacific Month, we have Black History Month, we have Women's History Month, we have Spanish History Month. The reason why we have those is because of, you know what I mean? So the really long answer is yes, I still think that we need them. That makes me really bring it back around.
Thank you for that answer. I'm like, I forgot the question.
But you said, do we still need it? And
I remember. I was being funny, but what I was saying is I like what you said about the until there's no more first, no more first Latino American, Black American, Asian American women, the first woman to do a specific thing, then we should continuously highlight the achievements of those races, and specifically during this month, Black History, and the achievements that they've made. And some of the inventions, I was on the History Channel, and I was looking at a lot of the things that Black people invented, and they make your life easier. That was the total gist of the article. It was like things that were invented to make your life easier. And one of I'm just going to run down the list. It's the ironing board, and a lot of the stuff that was invented was to make their lives easier as well, because they back then they were servants, they were housekeepers, they were doing things like that. But the ironing board, home security systems, the traffic light, the carbon light bulb. the automatic elevator door opening, the refrigerated trucks, and the microphone.
Wow.
So Cindy, you don't need a microphone with your voice, but you know, the microphone that makes
that
you
person
louder.
invented one in my throat. That person invented.
Well, you know, so those things, they made life easier, and we don't even blink an eye about who
Yeah.
invented these things. But
Yeah.
those were all
there's another one. You said the street light? Did you say
yeah,
the
the
street
traffic
light?
light.
Yeah, the
Yep.
the traffic light. Yeah. And even
Yep.
I
So
think with blood transfusion, wasn't there was the black doctor that was I want to say it was blood transfusions or something to do with blood transfusion, but who knows? Don't quote me on it, but I believe so.
okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't speak to that. But
Oh,
it's
you
a
thought
lot of
I'm gonna
stuff
look at
that that people don't know about, that people are not aware of with these
right.
inventions. That, you know, when you learn about history in class, you're not learning about these things. And so that's why I feel that we still need it. And like I said, you brought up a very good point about the what do you call it? The until there's no more first, then we should
Yeah.
continue to celebrate these things. So
I was sitting there looking at Kamala Harris and I was like, this is just ridiculous. You know, like that just seems ridiculous to me. In 2020, we're saying, oh, she's sworn in as the first whatever. That sounds so, and then she's being sworn in by Sotomayor, who's the first this. And we've been around as a country forever. So it just seems ridiculous to me. It seems so crazy to me. Even when I watched Hidden Figures.
It's actually not ridiculous when you think about it, because really the right for Black Americans, the right to actually vote, I mean, you know, there's a lot of rollback on those rights right now that's being proposed.
Sorry, I had to look it up. It's Charles Drew, pioneering African American medical researcher, made some groundbreaking discoveries in storing and processing blood for transfusions.
Okay. Nice.
I'm sorry, I had to,
that saves lives. So
I got a transfusion before a few years ago. So thank you, Charles, Dr. Drew.
Yeah. And look, I mean, it saves lives. It's a standard procedure when you're in the operating room in case of first. So that's definitely something that makes life more convenient. It makes life possible. But
it makes you live, right?
Yeah. And so I lost my train of thought.
You said it wasn't. You said that it made sense that it's not so current or whatever. I mean, it's not. I said it doesn't make sense.
You're listening. That's good. I hope you guys are listening too. But wait, what did you say? I said it's at the end of the night, so I'm like, my brain is.
I can't. This is extra pay, extra salary. So you said that it doesn't make sense. You said it doesn't make sense for Cindy to be so beautiful. It's hard to look at her.
That is not what I said. But it's true. It is true.
You said her
so I'm gonna
smile.
Here.
You said
I'm
her
gonna look
smile.
over. But no, I was saying it does make sense that there are still firsts. And if you think about it, we've had a good solid 50 years since we've been able to vote and actually freely move around the country as we would like.
You think it makes sense though?
If I'm saying from the timeline that we had as able to be integrated as being able to vote, the timeline that we had 50 years, 50, is it 50 years or 50?
No,
a little over 50 years.
Well, let's see. We've been free since 1860 something.
No, I'm saying since we had the civil right to vote.
Right, so you mean like the 1960s?
1964, and remember, before 1958 we weren't able to go to school together, so how could we be on the same judge panel, or how can we be first then? No,
but Tim, in the Reconstruction period, we were very, very active in government, very strong politically in the and right after the Civil War, 1870s and stuff. Black people were very, very, very actively involved, and then Jim Crow happened in the early 1900s, when they saw we were getting too beside ourselves. We had banks, we had all these things, we had communities, and so they pulled us back down. But if we had stayed on that 1860s path, or let's say 1880s, when we started to boom. So let's say 1870s, 1880s, if we had stayed on that path, can you imagine? We wouldn't have had Barack Obama 8 years ago wouldn't have been the first. Can you imagine that?
Right. But that's by way of how the system worked. That's what I'm saying. So with Jim Crow and all those things that made it harder for us to achieve what we've achieved, when you think about the small span of time, which is 50, let's say 60 years, because I don't know the exact, I know
1960, let me do it. Go ahead.
So 2021 minus what, 19, let's say 1964, because wasn't that the Voting Rights Act?
64, 65 or something. So let's do 65 at the latest.
Okay, so 2021 minus that.
1965, 56.
So a span of 60 years, and that's one generation. That's not even a full generation. So in a span of less than 60 years, you have the first Black president. You have the first Black female president, vice president. You have so many other firsts. You have the first Latina. You have the first. There's so many firsts.
Like person that's been in America, the first Latina.
The first Latina, no, I'm saying the first, well, I was talking about Sotomayor, what you were saying, shut up. Cállate la boca. But you have the first, Latina, the first Asian Pacific woman. You have the first of so many things, and that's a culmination of the last 56 years. And what I was saying earlier is that when you look at how they're looking to roll back, the Stacey Abrams, shout out to Stacey. I mean, shout out to Stacey
Abrams, Latanya, is it Latasha Johnson or that other lady?
I don't even know Stacey.
Yeah, but Stacey, she has it's a few of them. They are really, really, oh my God.
Coalition. But ever since then, what are they doing? They're starting to try to roll back. They're trying, since they're so empowered in so many local legislative areas, they're trying to roll back voting rights and voting access. So that I always say, if it wasn't so important, it wouldn't be right. They would try to take it back and steal it from you or take it from you. So.
And it which brings us to one of the things we said we wanted to talk about, like, are we really it's Latasha Brown. Okay. Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright, founders of Black Votes Matter. If you follow them on Twitter, they buses are just moving through the neighborhood. And I mean, they really wish they had given that girl that Senate job. What was it? The Senate or governor? Governor, Stacey Abrams. They really wish that they had just given her the governorship, because then they would have gotten the presidency. They screwed her over for the governor job, and she did what you're supposed to do. She took her fire and turned it into fury, and said and then turned that into action. So Stacey Abrams, she's being talked about as what Nobel Peace, some kind of thing, or
she's actually nominated. I don't know how they vote on it and what they do, but she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize because instead of getting angry and going around saying they did me wrong, they did this and that, she activated. And that's one of the things we keep telling our viewers. We want you guys to activate and become active in anything local, especially starting out at your local, even school boards. But what she did was activated the entire state of Georgia. And I'm like, I can't hear you.
Really? You can't?
I can hear a little bit. It sounded like you were underwater.
My thing was covering the microphone. I said she did what they know and what they're scared of, which is, if we really join together, we're more than them. So they look at it as us versus them, instead of just being able to vote for your right. You can't hear?
No, I just realized speaking of school board and being on the school board council, I just realized I had a meeting at 6:00, but go ahead.
Go ahead. We said we ain't gonna be long anyway. So I was saying she took it and she realized, hey, it's more of us that want a true democracy than it is of you. So if you take the people that have the power to vote, who want a true democracy, and then you add the minority votes who always, the women turn out, maybe the men don't. If you join up everybody, it's more of us that want what's right. Then it's more of y'all that want to repress everybody. So she realized that it's not just black and white. That's not about black and white. They don't want democratic rule. They don't care if you're white or black. Democratic rule. So she realized that. So you know, like you said, shout out to her. But I was just thinking about when you were talking Black History Month, when I was thinking about who died last year, was it John? What's his name?
John Lewis.
John Lewis. He's
Mhm.
saying good trouble. So
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams took that and she got in good trouble. And so, you know,
Yes.
where we are now in terms of Black History Month, I think we're complacent in one word. I think we really, you know, there's a lot of us doing what we got to do and doing it politically. But I think we got a lot of toys to play with now in terms of gadgets and CEO of this and, you know, made a lot of ground so that but we still forget, I think, that there's this the fact that the Voting Rights Act is still being attacked.
Oh my
It
God.
means that we're complacent a little bit. Just the fact that defund, I know you don't like it, but even if you say reinvent the police department.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm up now. Shanae, I'm up. Just like thinking about reinventing the police, and that's an issue. Just this person on YouTube told me, oh, racism doesn't exist because we voted for a Black president already. We had a Black president. So I was like, oh, well, that settles it. Medically, we're behind in terms of the vaccines. We're behind in the health area. We're behind in education. We're just really, really behind. And so when we think Black history and our achievements, this new generation of minority people of children of color, they're really, really active though. And I still keep saying that. And I like that. So I think that's really something like something to behold when you see the rallies and stuff and you see them organizing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we are. And then you still have the people that still, you know, the ones that still caping, capping, however you say it, for the man, trying to prove that we're satisfied. Let them be them. The ones you saw at the RNC convention standing up there saying, we good, you know, you're still gonna have them. But I was really glad to see when you looked at a lot of the marches, you could see it. The color is there and the mix of colors, the blend that we're really supposed to be. So I think Black History Month is gonna, all the months that celebrate the different people that are not acknowledged, it's gonna take everybody joining together.
Yes, and that was something that the minority whip, Clyburn, Jim Clyburn.
Oh,
he had written something. I think it was in the
Georgia. I think he is from, right? Is he from South Carolina? South Carolina.
He's from the South. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, South Carolina.
South Carolina, and he wrote something that it was discussing. I want to say reimagining, not reimagining. It was something like we have to restart or reimagine the dream, or what Martin Luther King said. And he said we need, and I tell girlfriends all the time, when we were fighting in the civil rights era, it wasn't just us Black people. It was we had a lot of allies, and I always say I don't think we would have gotten as far as we did without.
We can't.
You need allies. So
he
was saying that we need to make sure that we keep our partnerships and keep our allies where they understand our struggle, and we fight together, because that's what we need, this together, even though it's a celebration of us and Black people, but we do need them to continue to continue to fight in the struggle with us. That's all. That's the only way I can say it.
If you look at all the documentaries historically, it was a mix of colors out there.
Yeah,
it was a mix of colors. If you look at the George Floyd protest and all of that, it was a mix of people across the world. It was Germany. It was UK. It was places you're like, what they doing it? It was places that it didn't directly affect, but they realized. It was France, it was Belgium, it was places that made your heart proud, because you realize and Martin Luther King had always realized it, you can't do it as an island. It may be enough of us if you say people of color, but it still doesn't make sense to try to do it as an island. You gotta drive out evil with good. So and then I love what I was seeing from our Caucasian people that was saying things like, my silence is violence. And the protest that was happening in Seattle, Washington, I think it was, there was the mother, they formed a wall, and it was a whole bunch of Caucasian women mothers. And they were like, we got to be out here too.
Yeah.
Because I want my child to grow up in a place where it's not this, where George Floyd is not on the ground.
Yep.
I don't want my child to see that.
Yeah.
You know?
And it affects everyone. And that's the thing. And you know, sometimes we have allies that don't know exactly how to help or what to say. And I know you always say it's not my job to teach, but I feel on the opposite side of the spectrum is it I don't want to say it's my job, but it is I feel like helping someone understand the plight is something that I would be happy to do. Like I'm like, if you wanna sit down and talk to me for an hour about this, go. And
you know what, Tiff, though, I'll clarify that, because I'm not against teaching someone that really wants to learn. But what I've seen, people say they don't understand, and it's like the same coworker when the boss asks somebody to do something and they say, I don't know how to do that, and then the board manager be like, all right, just get somebody else. Some people pretend they don't understand what this is. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what's going on. And it's just this obtuse privilege. It's kind of like, I don't want to understand this. I don't want to. Leave me alone with all of that. That doesn't affect me. And that's the one I really lose my patience with. I will have a lot of patience for somebody that genuinely says, Sinclair, look, what are we going to do? How can we do this? Let me know how I can teach. Because I have a lot of white friends that do that. They're like, listen, tell me what I could say to help this matter. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm not okay with you pretending you're dumb because you don't want to accept it.
Yeah, well, that's a completely different story. That's completely different than, you know, someone that genuinely wants to understand or know what they can do to help. And it's just a completely different story. But and you know, you can tell, we read people all the time, so you can tell when someone is genuinely trying to help versus or get involved or understand versus someone who's trying to, like, you know, be, as you said, obtuse, and they're like, well, I don't know, I really don't believe that this is what your donuts came up, so I don't know if you're still there, but it's like, well, I don't know.
I'm here. I just had to, you know, I'm cooking dinner, so I had to tell Daniel.
Okay, no problem. So I got the floor, y'all. But one of the things we talked about talking about is politics and the African American or the Black people. And one of the things you said was that the RNC, at a normal RNC, when it's not led by a crazy person, I mean, we have diversity of thought. We all have different political ideologies. So it's like, whether you're Black, white, Spanish, whatever, Asian, we all have different political ideologies based on our experiences. So under normal circumstances, a Black person at the RNC would be like, oh, okay, that's just what he or she believes. But when you see them up there saying, no, everything is fine and everything is good and whatever he's saying is okay and it doesn't apply to me, then that's kind of whatever. But we notice that during certain times, you'll see politicians come to the Black church, or you'll see them come to discuss issues with us during those times of, what is it, maybe March, April, May?
Yeah, whenever they asking you to vote for something or do something.
So which means that we have, as people of color, as Black people, we have a very strong voting bloc. We have a very strong voting voice. So
and getting stronger.
Yes. So what do you think about that?
I think this election changed. I think it shifted the tide in how Black people will be perceived in the future. You're not going to dismiss us so easily.
Yeah.
And we talk about Georgia because that was one of the ones that was like in the highlights of everything. And it was really close. It was literally like 2,000 votes or something like that, or 12,000 votes. But Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, people of color, Native Americans, Hispanics, people of color, Arizona flipped for the first time, Nevada. So Nevada flipped for the first.
1996?
Which one is? Yeah, I think Arizona, it was forever. It's been Republican forever. And so now you won't be able to just say, and even, you know, they always talk about Texas, but Texas is slowly moving. And that's the reason why they're getting more stringent. I mean, when they start doing stuff, you have to think, this is why they're telling us who's here. because they don't move the post office in South Carolina. They're not moving it in Wyoming. They're not moving it in Kentucky. They're moving it in Texas. They're messing with it in Texas, Georgia, Pennsylvania, because they're realizing that not just people of color, but people are voting more democratically because they're realizing that America's history is steeped in racism and you can't get around it. It's this thing that just keeps coming back. It's like a canker because we haven't dealt with it. So
and remember Beto O'Rourke in Texas. What was I forgot what he was running for. He was running against.
He was close.
He got so far.
He got really close.
Not imagine that Texas is almost turning Democratic.
Yeah.
And he's a Democrat, going for a Democrat. And he was really like surprised. And when they were surprised. And when the primaries and things started rolling around, they were like, Texas.
They got to realize it. Yeah. They're realizing now it's not just Blacks, it's Latinas, it's Caucasian people. So now you have to address these issues. So Black History Month is going to look different. I mean, look, we had the first year where Juneteenth is acknowledged as now made a holiday in New York State. Juneteenth, which is our freedom, our real Independence Day. June 19th, our July 4th, right? Our July 4th is June 19th, which is Juneteenth. The first time that it was acknowledged as being, and people are like, I've never even heard of that day.
Wow.
So this is the first year that, the reckoning, we see it coming. So Black History Month is definitely going to take a great and interesting turn. And like you said, and I totally agree, we're going to need our brothers. We're all human race. So we're going to need the human race to stand up and say, this is not in their imagination. We do see the disparities. It's not because they're overweight, they're dying of COVID. A lot of people were turned away from being treated, not tested, ignored. The vaccines now that's coming out, you see the issues with the vaccine. We're not giving you the vaccine if you don't have X. So it's now becoming not only people of color, but it's becoming a poverty, money issue. So if you don't have money and if you're a person of color, go over there. So it's going to make a large group of people that are going to be more democratic and more looking for the Democrat way of doing things instead of this staunch Republican way. And we both said we have Republican policies in our head, but they don't represent us right at the moment. They don't.
Right now, I'm like, I don't know who they represent right now.
We're homeless right now. Yeah.
I feel like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
But like you said, the country is turning more and more democratic. And if you think about it, if there was nothing wrong, like you said, they wouldn't be trying to change voting rights. And
why are you moving the boxes? Why are you moving the mailbox?
Voting access and voting, there's like 100 and something legislative pushes to change the voting access now because people came out and vote. When you make it easy, people come out and vote. And I'm not against you voting your conscience and voting your will and your thoughts and certain things. It's just like I just regardless of what you say, like you said, the tree voted for the axe. Like
the tree has continued to vote for the axe. That's what's happening now. So did we do everything, Tiffany? Where we talked about where we are, freedom has not reigned in my eyes.
Everything. I think we touched on everything, but I do want to say with Biden getting in there, what he's doing now, I'm coming closer to the camera, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're like this.
I'm like, what he's doing now, it just seems like.
God, don't listen. It hurts, doesn't it? How you did me earlier and he started ragging on me.
What he's doing now is what before he even got elected, we did an episode, shameless plug, go back to check it out, where we talked about legislation for police reform.
Say that again, too.
Police reform.
No.
Legislation.
Wait, say it again.
Legislation. We discussed legislation. Stop. Legislation. We discussed the legislative branch, and we discussed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. That where we talked about police reform, and he's doing a lot to show that he is. Stop laughing. That he
I can't. I got the giggles now. Okay. All right. Shh. All right.
He's he's paying homage to the people that he feels are part of his voting base. And you're talking about the LGBT community.
Okay. Wait, let me drink something.
Oh gosh. The Black community, he's talking about prison reform. It's so many things that he has on his list. I'm saying professional, and I want to keep saying what I'm saying because she can laugh, and I'm going to keep the floor.
You don't want us to legislation. Like Felix. Like Felix, what's his name? Felix. No, but his first 100 days, he's showing that it's strategic, and I believe it's heartfelt. So on the one hand, strategic because he realizes that we do see a large voting block of people of color turning out. So you can't ignore them because in 2 years, we're going to make you pay. So that's what will happen in 2 years, guys. We're going to make you pay. We're going to make you pay. And so you can't just ignore us anymore. And then also, I think it may be that he realizes that his bills in the past have really affected us negatively. And this is an issue that's not going away.
Yep.
So everybody's always saying like, why it always got to come back to race? Why it always got to come back to race? Why? Well, because it's not dealt with, dude. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's a canker. It's going to keep on. So legislatively, I agree with you. He's definitely showing that he's serious, that he means business.
Yeah. And when it comes to that, like I said before, we've all made decisions in our lives where we're like, in hindsight, it's like, yeah, that didn't work out the way I planned it to work. Yeah. And I feel like that 1994 crime bill was one of his things where it's like, oh my goodness, what did I do? And so you start correcting those wrongs with the police reform and the prison reform, then I'm all for it. Because the other person, he did start criminal justice reform, but he didn't kick it down the road as much as he could. So this was a good topic on Black history. I mean, we didn't really discuss the history of it, but we discussed why.
Yeah, because we want to talk more about what's happening currently. I think it's very important. We all, I mean, I don't say we all know, but I think we know a lot of things Black history-wise, because I think a lot of us, we perceive ourselves to be woke. So we do like get all of the push of Madam C.J. Walker, hair inventions, and we get this and we did, but
she wasn't on my list.
C.J. Walker,
I don't think I put her on my list of
curling irons and perms and all that stuff.
You already know,
so we get that, we get all of that, but we are not. The current things that are happening is, to me, more pressing. They're not more important, but they're pressing because they're right now. Yeah, and like you said, just us being active and continuing to be active, and I think maybe incorporating some sort of education within your household to make kids feel like it's important at an early age to be active. You could be active in your school, and then it'll start to teach you civic duties and government and stuff. This was great to talk about, Tiff, and I think we did it in under 40.
I was going to say not under 30 because we never go under 30.
It's 38. It's 38 right now.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Man, but this has been good. I mean, I'll since you opened, I'll close. Ooh, God, lips are twisted. But
and then she mad at me when I get the giggles.
You can always email us at 2polychicks@gmail.com. I said that first because I
noticed.
If you watching us, you already know to follow us or find us on Polychicks. So hit that subscribe button down there, the little face on the left or the right. I think it's when you're watching, it's on the right. So am I pointing to the right or wherever it's at? That's that little button with our face. Hit that and subscribe, like, follow. She's my personal interpreter. But also hit like on 2polychicks no, gosh, I'm messing it. I still messed it up. 2polychicks on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Wait, which one is just plain Polychicks? YouTube is just plain Polychicks, right? Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. And we are out.